In this spirit, the Global Inclusion Summit stands as a powerful platform to reflect, to learn, and to act on what inclusion truly means in our modern world. Inclusion is not charity, it is not adjustment, it is a right, a responsibility, and a shared commitment. Over the next 4 days, we will explore how education, industry, government, technology, counseling, and community support can come together to build a world where every person, regardless of ability, background, location, or situation, has the opportunity to learn, to participate, and to flourish. We gather here to deepen our understanding of inclusive practices, to celebrate diverse perspectives, and to strengthen networks across the continents. This webinar aims to spark meaningful conversations, inspire policy thinking, highlight real-life stories, and empower educators, leaders, and young learners to become ambassadors of inclusion in their own environments. Our expectation from each participant is simple. Come with an open mind, engage actively, absorb deeply, and carry forward these insights into your classrooms, institutions, workplaces, and communities. As we begin today's session, let us remember that inclusion is not a single action, it is a continuous journey. A journey that calls us to recognize potential over limitations, possibilities over barriers, and humanity over labels. Let us make these 4 days a celebration of abilities, diversity, dignity, and global unity. Once again, welcome to the Global Inclusion Summit 2025. May this be an inspiring and transformative experience for all of us. To set the tone for an evening of reflection and shared purpose, I now invite Mr. Timothy Paul to lead us in prayer. Over to you, Timothy.
Thank you, ma'am, for that warm and wonderful welcome. Can we now bow our heads and look to God and pray? Dear God, we thank you for this day and for an opportunity like this to meet people from different walks of life across the globe in this platform of Global Inclusion Summit. God, I pray that you would unite our hearts and minds. May all that we do bring in oneness and peace to us, to others. God of the universe, lead us by your grace and grant us your blessing as we begin this summit today. May the summit bring fruitfulness in each and every one of us. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Timothy, for grounding us with those meaningful words. Before we begin our inaugural deliberations, it is my honor to introduce a person whose leadership has been central to the growth, the direction, and vision of Jesuit Worldwide Learning. Our JWL convener, Dr. Ronald Mascarenhas, the overall in charge who has guided every step of this initiative with exceptional dedication and clarity. Our convener has been the pillar behind all our preparations for this summit, providing strategic support, encouraging the organizing team, ensuring academic quality, and empowering us to bring together voices from various countries. His commitment to JWL's mission of inclusive, accessible, and transformative education is truly inspiring. Under Sir's guidance, this summit has taken shape not merely as an event, but as a powerful platform for global dialogue, collaboration, and human-centered learning. His passion for widening educational opportunities and fostering international engagement continues to elevate the work of JWL and all of us associated with it. It is with great respect and appreciation that I invite our JWL convener, Dr. Ronald, to deliver the opening address and set the tone for this year's Global Inclusion Summit. Sir, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sayantini. Respected Chief Guest, Professor Dr. Srinivasalu, Guest of Honor, Professor Sudhakar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Father Dr. Victor Lobo, Father Peter Ballis, Executive President of JWL, distinguished speakers, resource persons, industry partners, government representatives, organizing secretary, Ms. Banu, faculty, and all participants, warm greetings from St. Joseph's University and a cordial welcome to each one of you. It is a privilege to address this forum, which believes inclusion is not merely a theme, but a shared global responsibility. Meeting on a virtual platform reminds us of the mission of Jesuit worldwide learning to take quality education to the most underserved communities, uphold human dignity, and ensure that learning opportunities reach those who need them most. In a world marked by rapid technological shifts, widening inequalities, and evolving education system, one question guides today's gathering. How do we make inclusion a lived reality for all? Inclusion is not an abstract ideal. It is a conscious choice that shapes peaceful, resilient, and empowered societies. It invites the active participation of educators, industries, governments, technologies, families, and global networks such as JWL. Together, they form an ecosystem in which learners, regardless of identity, geography, or circumstance, can thrive. Across the world, teachers are becoming architects of opportunity. Their role extends far beyond instruction. They mentor, they accompany, and they transform the lives of learners, particularly those living on the margins. True inclusion begins with the conviction that every learner matters. Educators achieve this through empathetic listening, culturally responsive classrooms, differentiated instruction, and flexible assessments. Tools like Universal Design for Learning help create environments when diverse learners can succeed. From refugee camps to remote rural schools, teachers demonstrate daily that education can break entrenched cycles of disadvantage and rebuild hope. Industry should open doors to inclusive futures. Industries and employers have defining role in shaping equitable futures. A workplace that embraces diversity or gender, ability, culture, and socioeconomic background becomes more innovative and future ready. Organizations can champion inclusion through fair hiring practices, accessible work environments, mentorships, skilling programs, and partnerships with educational institutions. When industries collaborate with universities and networks like JWL, they create pathways for learners who may otherwise be overlooked. The future workforce will be global, interdisciplinary, and digitally skilled. inclusion will be its greatest strength. Government should be strengthening system of equity. Governments are responsible for embedding inclusion into national systems. Policies that support scholarships, digital literacy, inclusive curricula, and mental health or career guidance can uplift entire communities. Effective public private partnerships enable universities, NGOs, industries, and international organizations to scale accessible education models. JWL's work across continents demonstrates how global collaboration can serve local needs, especially in regions affected by conflict, displacement, or crisis. Wherever governance is rooted in compassion and justice, inclusion thrives. Technology and virtual platforms should be transforming access. Technology today is a powerful equalizer when used ethically and inclusively. AI enabled learning tools, adaptive software, multilingual platforms, and virtual reality modules personalize education and make world class resources accessible even in remote areas. Virtual platforms, in particular, have redefined participation. They allow people with the travel limitations, disabilities, or caregiving responsibilities to engage meaningfully. By connecting diverse cultures and voices, they cultivate global learning communities founded on solidarity and empathy. To ensure that technology reduces rather than deepens inequality, we must prioritize digital literacy, affordability, and universal access. Many learners, especially first generation students or those from marginalized backgrounds, struggle not due to lack of ability, but due to lack of direction. Career counseling helps them understand their potential, navigate opportunities, build skills, and gain confidence. When learners receive guidance, they discover not only a path forward, but also their sense of purpose. And the first teachers and champions of inclusion are families. Families play uh, a fundamental role in shaping inclusive mindset. Values of respect, empathy, and openness begin at home. Parents who engage in their children's learning journeys understand emerging opportunities and encourage curiosity, become important allies in uh, building inclusive communities. As members of Jesuit Worldwide Learning Community, we carry a profound responsibility to accompany, to uplift, and to ensure that no learner is forgotten. Inclusion is more than a policy or philosophy. It is a moral commitment to uphold the dignity of every human being. Every learner, whether in a remote village, an urban slum, a conflict zone, or a displaced community, deserves the right to learn, to hope, and to shape a better future. When we include, we heal. When we teach, we empower. When we accompany, we transform. Let us move forward together, educators, industries, governments, technologists, parents, and global partners, to create a world where inclusion is not an exception but the norm, not an aspiration but a reality, not a slogan but a way of life, a world where every learner can boldly say, I belong, I have dignity, I have a future. Thank you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Professor Ronald, for initiating this summit with such vision and clarity. Thank you very much. It is now my honor to introduce our chief guest for the evening, Professor Dr. Srinivasalu, a Professor of Law, School of Technology, Law, National University of Juridical Sciences, India. His work has been a guiding compass in the field of legal inclusion and digital rights. Sir, we are delighted to have you with us. I request Ms. Litty Joseph from the Department of Commerce to introduce our chief guest. Over to you, Ms. Litty.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our distinguished chief guest, Professor Dr. Srinivasalu NS, a highly respected academic and legal scholar whose work has had a profound impact both in India and internationally. Professor Srinivasalu is currently a professor of law at National University of Juridical Sciences, NUJS, Kolkata, where he has been a member of faculty since 2007 and was promoted to full professor in 2013. He holds a PhD in biotechnology and patent law from the University of Mysore and earlier completed an LLM specializing in constitutional law, business, and trade law, as well as an LLB in which he topped his university and received a gold medal. Professor Srinivasalu's specialities lie at the interface of intellectual property law, biotechnology law, information technology law, broader themes of law and policy, civil liberties, and jurisprudence. Over his distinguished career, he has authored and edited numerous books and monographs. Some of his major works include Law Relating to Intellectual Property, LexisNexis, Dynamic Interfaces of Intellectual Property Law, Law Relating to Biotechnology, Oxford University Press, UK, Human Rights and Development, Penguin Partridge, USA. On the national front, he has also written or edited numerous books on IPR, biotechnology, and plant variety rights, copyright, trade secrets, and legal research methodology. In terms of scholarly publications, Professor Srinivasalu has over 100 research publications in peer-reviewed international and national journals. He has published more than 35 kinds of journals, publishers including Oxford, Penguin, Springer, Wadsworth, Eldrim, and Manupatra, and many others. His academic influence also extends through his mentorship. He has supervised a number of PhD scholars and master students, including candidates from Italy, Germany, and India. Professor's contributions are not limited to academia. He holds prestigious international appointments. He is a distinguished professor and scientific member at the Canadian Institute for International Law Expertise, Ontario, Canada. He is also a distinguished member of the International Council of Jurists, London, and serves as Vice President of the Amicable Court Earth-Loving Friendly Organization in Sapporo, Japan. Moreover, he is an international consultant and representative for the Copyright Society of Uzbekistan. His service roles are many, ranging from editorial board membership in journals like International Journal of Commercial and Management Sciences and others, to peer reviewing and advisory roles in national and international bodies. He has led or contributed to several important research projects such as fixing the liability of intermediaries and redefining safe harbor provisions in IT and copyright law funded by Indian music industry. Regulation of recorded music usage at weddings, copyright law. Application of technology in judicial adjudication, a project funded by the Ministry of Law and Justice and the National Judicial Academy. Beyond teaching and research, he has anchored key institutional collaborations, for example, between NUJS and Microsoft India, and between NUJS and the Indian music industry for capacity building, research, and consultancy in IP law. Professor Srinivaslu's deep expertise in intellectual property, technology law, and policy makes him a perfect fit for our conference theme. Moreover, his role in shaping legal academia as a teacher, curriculum designer, and researcher aligns closely with our goal of advancing knowledge and inspiring future leaders. Please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Dr. Srinivaslu NS, our chief guest for today.
Sir, you are muted. Could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me for this program, and thanks for such a lengthy introduction of mine. Indeed, it could have been done within 2 or 3 minutes. Nevertheless, first of all, let me congratulate St. Joseph University for taking up this topic for discussion on disability rights. Because in general, people who are abled, people who are having every physical ability, for themselves, it is very difficult to sail through in the cutthroat competing world. In such background, the plight, the situation, the condition of disabled people, we need to look into and consider. Kindly mute all other participants except the speaker. So in such a background and scenario, in the year 2006, the United Nations happened to come out with some consensus to ensure dignity of the people who are having disability. In fact, we should not call or we should not use the term disabled or disability. We should rather use the term differently abled. They are not disabled people, but they are differently abled people. There is a biological reason for it. As we all know that during our school days and all, we have studied Charles Darwin's theory regarding law of nature, how life evolves on the earth and all that. If you go into the deeper connotations of that theory, it says that living entities who are having some or the other disability, right, they will have some special ability. For instance, a person who is not having a particular limb, the other limb may be slightly stronger than the limbs that we have, who are leading normal life with a normal biological structure. Similarly, people who are having that visual disability, when their visual sense is not working, there are other senses based upon their hearing sense, thinking sense, touch sense. Other senses will be more empowered than the senses that we have as per normal physical structure. So this is as part of biological evolution. So that's why I said we should not address them as disabled people. We should address them as differently abled people, and adding to the dignity, the status, the access, or the inclusivity, all that we would like to ensure for these people. Since I am from the background of law and policy, it goes without saying that I should be in a position to throw some light on the legal implications as well, the law and policy implications as well with respect to the differently abled people. As I mentioned briefly, in the year 2006, United Nations happened to come out with a convention on the rights and protection of disabled people or differently abled people. Government of India in the year 2016 brought up a special legislation with reference to the protection of rights of disabled or differently abled people. And by virtue of that legislation, it is a mandate now for every organization, private or public, to have a disability policy, to have a separate mechanism, separate means for ensuring that differently abled people are given the privileges, are given the special support, assistance, whatsoever, by virtue of which they can join the mainstream, by virtue of which you do not discriminate them, by virtue of which you provide all sorts of inclusivity or access to these people whom we call as differently abled people. Remember, the Differently Abled People Rights Protection Act of India, 2016, talks about 21 different types of disabilities. 21 different types of disabilities are actually recognized, covered within the scope of the legislation. Right? It could be physical disability, it could be visual disability, it could be mental disability, or sometimes it could happen that a person is all right, no physical ailment, no mental ailment, no visual ailment, but still that person is disabled if that person is not having learning capacity. We get to see in nowadays in our colleges and universities that a student is all right, physically all right, mentally all right, able to do everything on his own or her own, but still lagging behind in learning, unable to get that pass mark, unable to walk that extra yard, right? That's where we come across this learning disability. Probably Bollywood star Amir Khan introduced this learning disability to the entire India, it seems, in the year 2009 when he came out with the movie Tare Zameen Par, and of course off late also Sitare Zameen Par, the second version of that, where he presented as a teacher how the teachers can help out the cause of the people who are all right in every meaning of it, but having learning disability, right? Those people who have watched that movie, Tare Zameen Par, would realize that how a person, a boy, 10 years or 11 years boy, was having learning disability. And even this learning disability is now included within the definition of disability. So we should not think that disability means only physical or visual disability. It could be psychological also, right? It could be learning disability as well. Sometimes people may not be having that skill or maturity of mind to pick up the things or to grasp the thing that is going on in the class. That's also a sort of disability that has been covered as part of the legislation. Now, one debatable thing that I would like to throw open, since you are going to debate on this issue for the coming 4 or 5 days, right? So, how it would be a person who is very, very normal meets with an accident, and by virtue of that accident, he or she becomes disabled, maybe partially, fully disabled, or bodily disability, or psychological or mental disability he or she would encounter. But by birth or based upon his certificates or her certificates, experience and all, there is no signs of disability whatsoever, right? Accidentally, somebody becomes disabled. On this issue, the law is silent, but we have to consider these people as well to be part of the scope and definition of disability, because by act of God, accident means act of God only, right? Nobody would plan it, nobody would get into that, right? It's a mismeasure in terms of law. Sometimes it happens, mishap happens, accidents happen. By virtue of that, also people suffer, they become disabled fully or partially, and by virtue of which they are unable to lead normal life, right? So my point is very simple. When a person is unable to lead normal life, right, irrespective of the percentage of the disability, physically, visually, or mentally whatsoever, that person should also be included within the definition of disability, especially when it comes to accidents. People who suffer because of this acid attacks and all, that has been covered as part of the disability, because we have seen that especially women folks suffered with this in the past decade or so, where some antisocial people are, especially men, have used taken resort to acid attacks and all to convince the female folks and all for whatever gratification. That has been included now. That's again, acid attack is also, though it's intentional on the part of some XYZ, it's also an accident. Similarly, any accident for that matter, by virtue of which a person becomes biologically, psychologically, visually, or in whatever way, suffers, damages his or her own body, that should also be considered part of disability. But as of now, the interpretation doesn't cover that. Maybe in the days to come, it also may become part of the disability as per the law. So in this regard, I have got certain observations to be made, and I will present a couple of case laws as well decided by the Supreme Court of India with respect to how exactly should be ensured that they are not going to get discriminated, that they join the mainstream, and then how exactly private and public sector should respond to them. What about their educational life? What about their public employment? Would there be any special privilege, special mechanism, special incentives, special provision for given to them to ensure that they also consider themselves to be part of the mainstream, and they become disabled not because of their mistake or not because of anything that they have done, right? The nature has dictated it, right? Or sometimes because of the accidents or whatsoever, where they have no privity or without any wrong on their part, they become disabled. That's why it is the responsibility of the entire globe, entire the human folks to give that assistance support to those people who are less privileged, who have been subjected by the nature or by the act of God accidents, by virtue of which they become disabled. It's not wrong on their part, right? It may be the wrong of the nature or whatsoever. Such being the case, it's a global responsibility. It's the responsibility on all of us to give that support to them, to give that assistance to them, by virtue of which they don't get discriminated. They gain access to the mainstream. They become equally educated, equally empowered, like everyone, like you and me, right? So in this regard, let me give you a glimpse of the disability policy that is in place in India today, and also the disability law that we have got in place. As I mentioned previously, as per the law that we have in this country, there are 21 different types of disabilities which have been recognized, including physical disability, mental disability, visual disability, and also disability that could arise because of learning difficulties and as well accidents such as acid attacks and all that. Now, the law talks about giving social security to the people who are differently abled or people who are disabled. Law talks about ensuring that the differently abled people are not discriminated, not ill-treated. Law would like to ensure that differently abled people are given special incentive, special privilege, special means to ensure that they also get access to not only information but as well education. The law would like to ensure that people who are educated, who are amongst this disabled people, they are given some special criteria in terms of reservation. That's the reason why now we get to see, especially in public employment, 5% reservation is given for differently abled people, including physically disabled, mentally disabled, and as well visually disabled. And it applies to everybody, not only public organization, even for private organizations. And since certain private organizations may not be that willing to implement this public policy executive, Government of India is providing some special incentive to those private organizations who are ready to implement this 5% reservation in employment, 5% quota system for the differently abled people in giving them seats in higher education, and who provide infrastructure facilities for differently abled people. For example, a person who is unable to climb up the steps, right? That it may be the lift system, or it may be the other way around, by virtue of which that person need not climb and all that. So this kind of infrastructural support that you provide to these disabled people. And when it comes to the visually disabled people who cannot read the books that you have printed in the black and white or in the printed form, for them, if you have installed JavaScript in your digital library or in your library where you have installed JavaScript in a couple of or few systems, by using which the visually disabled student can hear, can that JavaScript can read out the text written in that book, digital copy or whatsoever. And for this reason also, International Society in the year 2014 itself brought a convention at Marrakesh. It is called as Marrakesh Treaty on Copyright, wherein it is said that any printed or copyrighted literature, information, book, video, whatever, it can be provided access to a visually challenged person, and it doesn't amount to violation of anybody's copyright. For example, if I have written a book, you can xerox it, or you can go for its audio version and bring it in the form of a hearable clip, audio clip whatsoever, and we have given it to only a couple of visually challenged students of yours. It doesn't amount to violation of my book. So such kind of facility has been brought in now by the International Society through that 2014 Marrakesh Treaty. We do have implemented the same when it comes to Indian copyright law as well. So the point that I'm trying to put across is in the beginning of this, this century, in the year 2006, United Nations happened to come out with a convention to ensure the rights of this differently abled people. And 2014, the United Nations, in fact, happened to steer the Marrakesh Treaty on Copyright, especially to provide access to information, access to education, access to every sort of literature, by virtue of which the visually disabled people can also become a graduate, well educated, and knowledge is everything nowadays. Knowledge is wealth, knowledge is money, and knowledge is the spirit of life. And then if you denying the knowledge means denying the right to life itself. In fact, Supreme Court of India has also said it in one of the judgment, to which I will come a little later, right? So knowledge is now the criteria for empowerment. Access to knowledge is nothing but you are giving access to empowerment. You are giving access to development. You are giving access to the right to life in its a sophisticated, comfortable, and convenient way, especially when it comes to differently abled people, disabled people, because they have certain limitations in gaining access to information, gaining access to knowledge. So the disability policy, whatever has been brought in at the national level, talks about all these things. I believe that nowadays every organization, every institution, even for that matter, your St. Joseph University must also be having a disability policy, which you would be trying to implement at different levels, including how exactly you go about ensuring that inclusivity for the staff who are working there, where there may be some differently abled people, and as well in the student folks also, there may be some differently abled students to ensure inclusive growth, sustainable development, non-discriminatory development. You must have developed such kind of a policy because it's a mandate at international level now. At national level also, because of the legislation that we brought in 2016, it's a mandate now. Now, there is a system in place now, irrespective of the fact whether you have institutionalized this disability policy or not. At national level and state level, district level, there is now system in place. At national level, we have a chief commissioner of disabled rights. State level, we have a state level commissioner for disabled rights. At district level, also we have district level commissioner for ensuring protection of the rights of those people who are having any sort of disability. And there is also a special court at every district level to take care of the grievances that disabled people suffer. At every district, there is a district level special court institutionalized now, which will try exclusively the grievances, complaints filed by differently abled people, maybe against their employer, maybe against their own college if he or she is a student, or sometimes maybe his own siblings, her own siblings, if the family is not taking care of that differently abled or disabled person. That's why I said it's a global inclusive policy, it's a global responsibility. It's not that government will do it. It's not that your sibling will do it. It's not that your teacher will do it. It's not that your employer or your boss will do it. It's a responsibility on every one of us. It's a global responsibility. And it's a global inclusive policy that we are trying to implement at global level. Right? That's what the mandate of the law at national level and international level. And now alongside this, at national level, state level, and district level, there is a national fund for ensuring inclusivity for disabled people. There is a national fund, there is a state fund, and district fund administered by the government, the respective governments, national, central government, state government, or at district level, maybe a district commissioner or district collector, whatever you call him or her as, district level authorities. They are maintaining the fund. Now, any differently abled person who is having no other recourse, he or she can directly shoot an email to district collector, district commissioner, saying that my college is not taking care of my, my special status. They're not providing any special, measures, or my boss is not doing it. My family is not taking care of me, and all. You have the liberty to directly shoot an email to district commissioner, and you can directly shoot an email to district court because everything is happening now in the digital environment. A person who is having a physical or visual disability, he or she cannot you cannot expect he or she to go by whatever way to reach out to the district court or district commissioner, because mobility issues are also there. That's why no protocol, no procedure whatsoever. Grievance is there. Shoot an email to district collector. Shoot an email online. There is a portal also where you can locate how exactly to reach out to the district court and all that. So by using the digital platform itself, you can set your grievances set, no, or get your grievances raised. And such type of feasibility has been brought in now by virtue of this 2016 Protection of Rights of Disabled People Act, whatever we brought in almost a decade ago. Alongside that, every institution for that matter, like you have done now, like Time Joseph University has done it now. In fact, it's a mandate now. I'm happy that you being a private university have done it. Not many public organizations have done it. Not many public universities have done it. Though it's a mandate. It's a mandate that every organization having more than 100 employees, having more than 100 students, if it's a school, college, whatsoever, right? More than 100 means you are public. You are no more a private. You may be run by a private trust or whatsoever, but the fact that you have more than 100 people under the same shelter, you are serving the public purpose. You are actually discharging public function. So you are a public, right? Public institution in that respect. So it's a mandate that you conduct awareness programs, capacity building programs with respect to disabled people or differently abled people. In fact, that is what you are doing now. Though inwardly you may not be knowing this, but through this 4 or 5 days of program, whatever you are actually going ahead with. In fact, you are implementing this disability policy of Government of India. You are implementing rather the Protection of Rights of Disabled People Act mandate as well. And then many congratulations on that front. I appreciate you people in this regard. And I'll quote 3 Supreme Court decisions in the recent past, that is from 2021 to 2025, wherein Supreme Court has gone about giving crisp response and clarification with respect to the rights of this disabled people or differently abled people. The first case I will quote, State of Kerala versus Lisamma Joseph. State of Kerala versus Lisamma Joseph in the year 2021. For the first time, Supreme Court of India clarified that differently abled people, disabled people have right to reservation in employment and also in promotion. We have heard all along that a particular sect of people who are socially, economically backward, those are going to get that special privilege, a special provision, reservation whatsoever in employment and all that. Now, not only them, even visually disabled, physically disabled, mentally disabled people, right, are having eligibility to claim reservation to the tune of 5%. That's the reason why in all public employments now you get to see that VHPH, that is visually handicapped or physically handicapped, whatever we say, right? Though it's like a what do you call slightly objectionable word now. You cannot call handicapped, you cannot call disabled. You should call differently able, right? So visually differently able, physically differently able, right? For them now there is a 5% reservation because to ensure that they get inclusivity in public employment. That's what has been laid down by Supreme Court of India in 2021 in the case of State of Kerala versus Lisamma Joseph. Further, in Pragya Prasoon versus Union of India, Pragya Prasoon versus Union of India, the same Supreme Court said that digital access or access to information, access to education for visually challenged people or visually differently abled people is nothing but ensuring their right to life. If you have a couple of visually challenged students in your university, but you have not provided them digital versions of the books, digital versions of the databases, or that JavaScript support, Scribe support, this is nothing short of you denying that boys or that girls right to life. The moment you employ a disabled person, the moment you provide admission to a differently abled person, it is your responsibility. Remember, it's your responsibility to provide that special amenities infrastructure to those people. The moment you have given admission to, the moment you have given employment to, it becomes your responsibility. It's not. It's for everybody, every organization, every college, every school, every private, public, or corporate office. It's a mandate now under the law that you are supposed to provide whatever 5% reservations for the disabled people, especially for public or government organizations. If a private organization do that, they get special recognition from government of India. They get some incentive as well, right? But remember, if you have given admission, if you have given employment to somebody who is having that who is having that disability, who are differently able, it is our responsibility again to give that special infrastructure, special access, JavaScript, or digital copies, or extra attendant to bring that student or take that student back to the school bus, or bring that differently abled teacher or faculty to the office and back to their quarters or residence whatsoever. It's your responsibility. That's what Prajna Prasoon versus Union of India case has mentioned. Access to information, access to infrastructure, access to your lobby, access to your office, access to his or her table, including lavatory, including washroom, everything gets counted. If you have if there is a person with this kind of special statuses, all these things you should ensure. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong on the part of you on the in charge, and that in charge will be subjected to minimum 6 months imprisonment and 5 lakh rupees fine. That's what the Act says now in India. Post this Prajna Prasoon versus Union of India, when Supreme Court said this access, right? That is second case. The third case, Union Public Service Commission, UPSC case, it is popularly known as, again in 2020. Supreme Court has said that differently abled people or disabled people are having every right to equality in employment and in mainstream life. Because it happened so that in 2020, Union Public Service Commission rejected a person who is visually challenged, differently abled, by saying that you are unfit to do a particular job, especially police job and all that, right? Where we need to maintain vigilance, surveillance, etc., by saying that they rejected a differently abled person's entry into Union Public Service, government services, central government services. That person filed a case saying that where is it written? How come you discriminate? Right? Keeping a vigilance, keeping a visual, or keeping a surveillance need not be always through your eyes. One can keep surveillance by other biological senses also. As per our biology, we have 5 different senses, right? Our sense is not confined to our looks. Our eyesight. Without eyesight, also one can keep a sense on what's happening around us, right? So, such being the case, you denying me access to especially central government services, saying that the service is nothing but keeping a surveillance or keeping a watch or whatsoever in say in border or in law and order problem, or in the open public or whatsoever. So Supreme Court said in 2021 that Union Public Service Commission's decision is violation of equality, right? You cannot deny public employment, especially police service or military service, defense service whatsoever, by saying that a person is visually disabled or having some disability. It is nothing but denying equality, or it is nothing but discrimination with regard to that full person, because they have equality in employment and also equality to enjoy mainstream life as well. So these are the 3 landmark cases that Supreme Court of India happened to come out with of late in the past 4 or 5 years, especially aftermath of the government of India brought in that Protection of Rights of Disabled People Act of 2016. So as a keynote speaker or a chief guest, my job is to highlight, the nooks and corners of the debate, and also to bring about certain debatable points with respect to how the debate should continue, the program should continue for the next 4 days whatsoever. I mentioned that 21 different types of disabilities the Act, the law, and policy recognizes. But what about the accident? The people who meet accident and aftermath of that they become disabled. Would they be also considered to be disabled as part of the law or not? Or should we consider them to be disabled? That's one debatable thing. And number two, if the private organizations or non-governmental organizations are not willing to implement this policy or whatsoever, what should be the course of action? Because the law says at national level, international level, that it's a global responsibility. It's global inclusivity to support differently abled people, right? And as a matter of law and policy, we need to bring that capacity to be built. We need to spread that awareness. We need to bring the transparency, and we need to take this on our shoulder to support these people who are differently abled, who are disabled. And we need not wait until these people raise their voice, until these people, meet at the special court or write an email to the district collector or, the government of India and all that. The moment we see them, the moment we look at them, we get to know about them as an employer or as a teacher or as a fellow human being, it becomes our responsibility. And that fellow need not be a student, need not be your employee, need not be our sibling, cousin, friend, whatsoever, right? It could be a general mass, general public. And as part of this globe, as part of this society, we need to think in terms of giving them that assistance, support in whatever way possible. That's why I said it's a global responsibility. It's societal responsibility. It's a global and social inclusivity that the disability rights, disability policy talks about. They're part of our lives. They're part of our society. Without being wrong on their part whatsoever. Maybe because of whatsoever, they have been associated with certain abilities or certain what do you call problems whatsoever are mental, psychological, and we as a global society should have consensus. It should be part of our mindset. It should be part of our psychology. If not our law and policy, though law and policy is talking about that, because law and policy we bring in to control our code of conduct, to put the society in line and to set that code of conduct. But if we have that sense, you may call it as common sense, or you may call it as a psychological reaction, or that ethical, moral responsibility to ensure this global inclusivity for all those people who are weak, who are having some or the other disability, then these people also can lead normal, beautiful, fruitful life that like you and me are leading. So it's all in our hands. It's all our responsibility to ensure that we allow, we assist differently abled people to join mainstream and to ensure that they get all that access that is required to education, information, and also employment in whatsoever way, so that they don't feel unincluded. They don't feel segregated, isolated. They have every right to live in this society the way the normal people live. And when they are less privileged because of the nature, and it is our responsibility to give them that assistance by virtue of which they can lead their life in a normal, beautiful way. With these few words, I thank St. Joseph University for giving me this opportunity. And I wish you people all the best. And I believe that the next 4 or 5 days, you will have wonderful paper presentations and even better enthralled, enlarged discussions, deliberations with respect to how exactly one can go about ensuring rights of the people who are with disability. It's all about our attitude. It's all about our commitment. It's all about our psychology more than anything. If we mold ourselves, right, with humanity and human spirit, right, everything will be all right. And especially when it comes to the rights of the people who are differently abled. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Srinivasulu, for that insightful and thought-provoking inaugural address with reference to appropriate case laws. You have highlighted the importance of every human being and the global responsibility to ensure inclusivity of differently abled people so that they can join the mainstream. Thank you very much. We now invite our guest of honor, Professor Dr. TVGS Sudhakar from the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. I request Ms. Immaculate Mary from the Department of Commerce to introduce our chief guest. Over to you, Ms. Immaculate.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm very happy to introduce our guest of honor, Dr. TBGNS Sudhakar. Sir is a professor of law at the West Bengal National University of Judicial Sciences, Kolkata, and serves as a head of the School of Public Law and Governance. He holds a BA in Economics and an LLB, as well as an LLM in Constitutional and Administrative Law from Nagarjuna University. He went on to earn his MPhil and PhD in International Law from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. His doctoral research focused on the protection of human rights in non-international armed conflicts and the development of international criminal law. Dr. Sudhakar's expertise spans a broad array of public law topics, including administrative law, international humanitarian law, refugee law, human rights law, and institutional law. At NUJS, he mentors LLB, LLM, and PhD students and has led several major academic initiatives. He organized a panel on witness protection, a colloquium on the National Rural Employment Guarantee Bill, and in collaboration with the International Committee of the Red Cross, a workshop on the international humanitarian law. He is also part of the university's PG committee, the Center for the Human Rights and Citizenship Studies, and advises the Society of the International Law and Politics. In recognition of his scholarly contributions and commitment to public law education, Dr. Sudhakar continues to engage with national and international forums on governance, human rights, and humanitarian law. His work reflects a consistent dedication to strengthening legal institutions and advancing rights based discourse in India and beyond. At this summit, he brings not only decades of academic and research experience, but also a deep commitment to fostering informed, ethical, and globally conscious legal leadership. Sir, we are very happy to have you amongst us. Over to you.
Yeah, good evening, all of you. So, first of all, so my thanks for inviting me. So, thanks to the St. Augustine University for giving this opportunity to express my thoughts and my views in respect of the on the rights of the persons with the disabilities. So, already Professor Srinivasulu, he has deliberated on variety of issues of the people with the disabilities, and so to some extent what I am going to speak, it may be somewhat overlapping, and in addition to that, so I will also express my viewpoints in respect of the global inclusion. So starting from the social exclusion, because the decade-long practice in the human society, so we can identify how disabled people, they have been subjected to marginalization and they have been subjected to social exclusion. And then, so after the decades-long struggle, so we are able to reach to the level of the transformation of the protection of the rights of the persons with the disabilities from social exclusion to global inclusion. So particularly if you see the context it was prevailing. So during the days of Hitler in Germany, because we can take as a classic example how Hitler he was treating the disabled population as liability to the society, as burden to the society, because they were not considered having any utility, because they are not useful for any productivity. But those days they have gone. So we could no longer consider the people with the disabilities that so they don't contribute to the social development. So in that way, so the transformation, as the transformation it was moving on in the late 60s and 70s, because in India also we have seen a lot of struggle from the people with the disabilities to get a protection through the legislation, because the 1995 legislation it was adopted, the PWD Act. The historical background, if you look at the historical background of the PWD Act, the Persons with Disabilities legislation 1995, so the long struggle it was carried from 1970s onwards, because once we get the statutory protection, that will ensure the protection of the rights of the people with the disabilities. So in that way, the intended legislation it was able to be matured only after the long struggle, and thereby we can witness how certain rights they have been guaranteed as part of the PWD Act. And even after the PWD Act it was enacted, so still we can see there are various instances of the social exclusion. So even though transformation it was moving on, because of a lack of awareness in terms of the public awareness is concerned, and the people attitude, because even though we pass number of legislations, even though we enact number of policies and rules and regulations, they may come into force, but ultimately it all depends upon the perception of the people, the the sociological perception. So the attitude of the people and social perception of the people, unless it is changed, so these laws they just remain on that piece of paper. For a larger implementation, what is required? We need to have the commitment. So the social commitment. So the social commitment it will lead to the global inclusion. So the necessary provisions they have been provided as part of the PWD Act. And even though there are some lacunas in the 1995 legislation, but subsequently we are able to see with the adoption of the 2006 United Nations Convention, that UN CRPD, so it's a comprehensive convention. This convention talks about guaranteeing of various rights in favor of the people with the disabilities, the persons with the disabilities, particularly the right of equality and non-discrimination, and as well as the right to full participation. And these rights they were further expanded by our municipal legislation, the national legislation 2016, that RPWD, so Rights of the Persons with the Disabilities Act 2016, and this is a very detailed legislation. It intended to provide a larger protection in respect of the persons with the disabilities by guaranteeing a variety of rights. So the right to access, then access to justice, so right to life. So various forms of human rights they have been embodied as part of the 2016 legislation, including protection from torture, protection from exploitation. So full participation and full realization of the rights of the persons with the disabilities. This is mainly to ensure to bring the inclusive society. So the more protection it is guaranteed, and by that way we can ensure the creation of the inclusive environment. Because previously we had the perception So the people with the disabilities, they require special care and attention. And that's why right from the beginning, I mean, so when child is there with the disability, and they used to be admitted in a differently abled school, because of the special schools, they can provide some kind of special care and measures to impart the education in respect of the disabled people. That ultimately led to the a kind of social exclusion, because people those they studied in the special institutions, they were not in a position to be included as part of the society. They were not integrated. It become a kind of more exclusion and secludedness. So, in order to overcome the social exclusion, so now everybody is talking about the inclusive environment, barrier-free environment, and the inclusive environment. So mixing all the people together, people with the disabilities, and they are getting admitted in the normal schools, and by that way, in the same institution, we can take care of the needs of the people with the disabilities by paying special attention and taking special measures, and they can be subjected to social integration. So that level of integration, it is required right from the beginning of the childhood, and later on, so it will lead to the more inclusiveness of the people with the disabilities. So this kind of inclusiveness, ultimately it will lead to the global inclusion. So once we start at the national society, so the sociological developments, so at the national society, once we take the steps for the creation of the inclusive environment, and over the period of the time, it will lead to the larger amount of the inclusiveness. So it will ultimately it will lead to the global the inclusiveness. So the global inclusion of the people with the disabilities. So in that way, we have to ensure the rights. Already, as I mentioned, the rights those are guaranteed in the UN Convention, as well as in the implementation legislation, because the UN Convention, it has to be implemented at the national level in every country. Particularly, so you take from the Indian context, we replaced the 1995 legislation with the 2016 the legislation for the implementation of the 2006 United Nations Convention. So in that way, so we have larger amount of protection. So as Professor Srinivasulu was indicating, 5% of the reservations, and as well as the inclusive society in the form of guaranteeing certain amount of employment in the public institutions, as well as in the private institutions also. It is very much encouraged by providing so much of incentives to the private bodies. If at all they engage the persons with the disabilities, they will get some amount of incentive. So in that way, state also now it is trying to bring the inclusive environment, and at the same time, in order to bring and in order to uplift the persons with the disabilities, so we need to ensure the barrier-free environment. So all the offices and all the institutions, whether it is a school, college, or university, or any place of employment, all the buildings, they must be accessible. So the institutions, they have to build up ramps, so for the easy access of the persons with the disabilities, and then even the lift also, so it should have some kind of speech output, and then the signboards, so with the imprint of a braille. So in that way, the people, they can get access the all kinds of services in terms of uh, the places of work, as well as places of the learning. So ultimately, it will lead to the barrier-free environment. So this is entirely to ensure the global inclusion. Now technology also it is able to emerge to break the barriers. Previously, a lot of barriers were there in respect of getting access to the various services, particularly the visually impaired people. So they were not in a position to read the specialized books. I mean, books may be available in braille at the elementary level, but at the advanced level of learning is concerned, what is required? So one has to depend upon the reading assistance of the sighted person. But now that barrier, so it is able to disappear with the emergence of the uh, the assistive technology. So computers now they are available. Computers they are accessible even to the visually challenged people also. And by that way, when books are available in the what we say that in a digital form, and then they can be read by the visually impaired people also. So as Professor Srinivasulu was pointing out that Marrakesh Treaty 2014. So as soon as the physical copy of the book is published, and then so it is the responsibility of the publisher also to bring out the digital copy of the book. So the digital copy of the book also it should be so yeah, it should be kept available for the sale. So in that way, whatever is there in the form of the printed material, if, when it is available in the form of the digital copy also, so more and more inclusiveness we are able to achieve in terms of imparting the education, in terms of getting access to the knowledge, because as we learn, so getting knowledge, it is nothing but the promotion of right to life. So as part of the right to life, so to live to live with the dignity, so right to live with dignity and right to life, we need to possess the knowledge, and knowledge will be acquired by reading the books, and that can be possible for the differently abled people, so particularly the visually impaired people, only once the digital copy which is available. So in that way, we are able to break the barriers. So barrier-free environment, we are able to secure, and in that way, the larger amount of transformation, so it is happening. So after all the achievements, so whatever the perception, slowly it is transforming from exclusion to inclusion for the since long decades of the oppressive practice. So as I told, so the kind of oppression it was existing to deny the equality of the people with the disabilities on par with the normal people. So the transformation it is slowly it is happening, but now so we are able to see in a larger way the transformation. So it is able to get matured, but still we have to see the public perception. So the people perception and the social outlook, the attitude of the public, it also needs to be changed, and then only we can ensure the larger amount of inclusive society that can be guaranteed. So for that, we need to focus upon the implementation of the the 2006 convention, and as well as in India is concerned that 2016 legislation. And there, the role of non-governmental organizations, it is also very important. Already judiciary it is playing very fundamental role in ensuring the protection of the rights of the persons with the disabilities, because we know the Supreme Court, so it is as the guardian of the rights of the people. So in in its capacity, it is also able to look into the rights of the persons with the disabilities, and as well as at the non-governmental level also, the social organizations, the non-governmental organizations also, they have the equal responsibility to promote awareness, and as well as to bring the inclusive society, and to bring the barrier free the environment. So with this, I will conclude my speech, and so I wish you good luck for the conference, because so you have to take forward the entire discourse on the rights of the persons with the disabilities in the days to come, and you need to debate on various issues and the challenges those are faced by the persons with the disabilities, and possible solutions we need to identify, and we need to focus upon the lacunas where we need to strengthen our cooperation, and as well as the what is expected from the government level as well as from the society, in order to bring more inclusive level of society for the upliftment and for the protection of the rights of the persons with the disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar, for your rich and inspiring address. You have spoken at length about the rights of persons with disabilities. Thank you very much for your talk. As we move into our keynote session, allow me to introduce the keynote speaker for day one, Dr. Roshni Sharma. She is an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, St. Joseph's University. Her work illuminates the intersection of governance, inclusion, and community empowerment. Dr. Roshni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. May I start with wishing or giving warm greetings to everyone present here. May I also take the opportunity to thank the organizers of the Global Summit 2025 to give me the opportunity to speak on a very, very important issue. The topic for today's talk that I thought that I have chosen is ethics and human rights in AI for artificial intelligence for refugee protection. When we look at the understanding of artificial intelligence, we know one thing for sure, that it has rapidly become a central tool in the humanitarian governance. Whether we speak of biometric registration to predict analysis used, let's say, for camp management, or AI-driven systems now are shaping to identify the displaced population, to monitor them, and to support them. Therefore, what it means within the framework of refugee protection, of human rights, and how do we perceive AI today that provides for opportunities, at the same time opens up a lot more vulnerable path for the already vulnerable society, and to also understand how, or let's say, given the risk and the challenges and the opportunities that come along with AI, what is the way forward? So when we see it today, refugees, for instance, one of the most vulnerable communities across the globe, have often relied on such systems for survival. So your authentication, your identification is very much required for accessing food, as basic as for having housing facilities, having some kind of legal assistance, legal aid, and also to be able to have some asylum processes. Now, The fact that we are talking about a community which is very, very vulnerable, very marginalized, AI therefore offers enormous potential. At the same time, open up doors of different challenges to strengthen the humanitarian response and the simultaneously or alongside it the human rights concerns that it brings along with. So to put it in this way, when we speak of the presence of artificial intelligence today, needless to say, they can be harmful, yet the task or the target should be to, to help AI to support protection, fairness, and dignity for the refugee population rather than having them face discrimination or exclusion. It can be AI is definitely empowering, but looking from the perspective of rights based safeguards, as refugees communities may not be able to challenge or appeal decisions. Therefore, the understanding of what are the key ethical principles that we need to look at while we talk about the understanding of the rights of refugee or the human rights, let's say, of the refugee community? Primarily, one can think of four very important ethical principles. One is transparency, second is accountability, third is privacy, and the fourth is no harm principle. So, to begin with, when I talk about the first one in the context of transparency, one should be very, very careful while using AI for the identification, for data analysis of this particular community. The refugees need to be well informed about how the data that is being collected is going to be used and how the data collected, analyzed, and whatever the automated decisions that come out of the collected data, how it is going to affect them, whether the way it is going to affect them would be positive in nature, or is it going to have a negative impact. So that transparency at the very initial, the first thing that should be actually informed, the what we also in research speak of informed consent with the vulnerable communities should be given in the very, very initial stages of when the data is being collected. That to highlight is the idea of accountability. Now, we should talking about is that sensitive data, and therefore these mechanisms, the mechanisms of AI, should be in such a position or should not be fully considered to be authentic. They can be challenged, they should be challenged rather, they should be reviewed, and there should be provisions whereby there is a human intervention in terms of whenever the need arises. Now, if you go on collecting data and so basically what I'm trying to argue here is that there should be some kind of accountability when you are talking or when you're dealing with AI and such sensitive data. The second point, the third point is privacy. So we know this has become one of the major concerns with in today's time when AI is growing and multiplying with every passing day, every passing minute. What happens to the data that we are feeding into these AI, into these artificial intelligence related softwares? The idea, one needs to be very, very particular, especially when you are dealing with the such vulnerable communities, is that you have to provide strong data protection frameworks. And if not, then what happens is you are also just not helping them, but also adding on to the already insecure or already people who are fleeing persecution for various reasons can lead to other kinds of atrocities on them. For instance, I like to take an example. If vulnerable within the community, if there are women refugees, the data is being shared, is not being protected, women refugees might have a much more or an edge to be for being some kind of violence being done with them. Could be sexual in nature, could be verbal in nature. So this is one way of looking at why we are talking about the protection, the data to be protected. And this is what the AI should be inclined with while we talk about the idea of AI and how it can work towards making the life of the community in a better manner, maybe much more helpful for them. The last one is looking at the idea of no harm or minimizing harm policy. And this is very, very crucial within the field of refugee studies. Why? Needless to say, we are working, it's the sensitivity of the population at hand should not be taken in the sense that, or should not be done in the way where they are prone. It opens up much more issues, much more concerns for the population, which is already under threat, under fear. Therefore, the requirement is from the end of the whole asylum process that happens, the countries which offer refuge to different communities, to ensure that there is primarily the idea of no harm principle is followed very diligently. And when I say of no harm policy, I'm talking about no harm at three very important levels. One is physical in nature, one is psychological, and one is social in nature. Physical in nature in terms of no kind of violence to be done on them. They should be there shouldn't be any kind of discrimination based on the gender done on the community. Psychological definitely should be one of the primary factors, since they become displaced. They are not staying in their comfort zone, or they don't feel the sense of belongingness. It's a different place for them. So, and while they come to the place where they seek refuge, there's a lot of trauma that they also go through. And therefore, psychological policies should also be, or psychological aspects should also be taken into consideration, whereby you are not repeating the same or any of it kind is not repeated, whereby the population feels the same trauma while living in thinking of living in a much safe space. And social in nature, there shouldn't be exclusion. We are talking about inclusivity since the beginning of the discussion today. So inclusivity, it becomes a very, very important aspect when we look at how we can minimize harm policies or minimize the harm over these communities. So there are therefore four important ethical principles that we have to look at. Now, I'll take an example here. Let's say if the AI system misidentifies a refugee due to poor quality data, let's say, and the person could be then denied of as basic as food, as basic as sanitation facilities, as basic as verification, and the kind of aid and assistance that comes along with it. Therefore, it is important to build transparency. It is important to have privacy. it is important to give to ensure that there is as much as minimizing of harm over the particular community. And these are the concerns that we are working with when we speak of AI and refugee rights. But what happens if you give in your data also is what it also provides, like the positives, if we were to speak of, for instance, right to seek asylum, right? If you have provided your data, everything has been identified, then the AI should never block, filter, or as a matter of fact, should never unfairly categorize asylum seekers based on risk models. So the AI should be working in these ethical principles that displaced population whose data has been secured, whose data has been entered securely or has been protected, their concerns, their rights should never be blocked, should never be filtered. The AI should also be working in favor of providing the community with right to dignity and right to equality. And it should not discriminate on the basis of, let's say, nationality. Somebody, a refugee is of a different nationality while the other refugee is of another nationality. There shouldn't be any discrimination. Discrimination, if done, would mean we are maximizing the harm principle, whereas that becomes problematic for, that definitely would lead to much more problems for the community. And therefore, the importance here, or the point that one should note, is that at no level discrimination should be based on nationality, on the language that the person is speaking, definitely on gender of the person, sorry, on ethnicity, and the last one is on religion. Some of these aspects also get categorized in the United Nations Convention for related to the right to the status of refugee 1951 and its additional protocol of 1967. So these are various examples whereby which we can ensure that AI is supportive for the community and is not creating barriers for the refugee community. The other aspect is to be able to make such provisions where the states, the security agencies, people who are involved, who are the stakeholders, make the community feel, if not welcome, but not even unwanted. So their rights, the basic minimum human rights, should be ensured. Even if the person is there for a month, or is trying to repatriate, or is trying to go back to the country of origin, or is trying for a third country settlement, in any of the cases, it is required for the stakeholders involved to provide for the basic requirement of the basic needs of the population. Policies and AI functionality should be in accordance with the international norms. And when I speak of international norms, we have the UNHCR in place, and UNHCR's data protection policy, the GDPR principles, all of which should be inclined with the making of, or the working of the AI towards protecting the refugee population, the displaced population. However, we have only been looking at the positives of AI this part, and therefore I now would turn towards looking at some of the challenges that AI brings along with itself for the population. So for first is biometric surveillance. Now, think of a scenario where the data is mistakenly, unintentionally, or intentionally if it is leaked or misused. It is exposing the already vulnerable population who are fleeing persecution, who are trying to save their lives, and they are seeking refuge. They have left their home and everything and seeking refuge in a different country. They are exposing such group of people to political persecution, or they can be tracking by the hostile governments. So this becomes very, very significant. We should be, while dealing with the AI, while also trying to collect data of the population, should be very, very cautious while we are how we are maintaining, securing, and ensuring that there is the refugee biometric data is not leaked. It's not, I mean, like I said, it can, if what if it happens unintentionally, then it becomes a major challenge. So technology is a tool and not a solution on its own. Therefore, the goal should be to ensure how AI supports human rights rather than undermining it. We are not saying that AI should be done away with. Rather, it should be regulated, it should be carved out in such a manner where we are talking about how it is supporting the human rights, how it is trying to build enough or trying to develop enough measures to provide for safe space for the community. We have already discussed in a couple of minutes ago the idea of informed consent and how the aid also depends upon it. So if the idea is that it is you fail to provide your or do the biometric data, and you fail to give in your entire details as a refugee population, then what happens is it makes things much more complicated. You will be provide the whole idea of accessing aid, humanitarian aid and assistance even through UNHCR then becomes a problem. As a matter of fact, as basic as one has to register under the UNHCR, get the RSD, which is refugee status determination card. Based on that, your aid and assistance work, if this whole process is not taken care of right from the initial stages until the last, it becomes problematic for the population to even have as basic as a meal for one time. So this is another aspect that comes along, another challenge, another set of risks that comes along with the idea of AI in picture. The third point is that AI may at times produce unfair outcomes. The reasons could be due to incomplete database, and therefore, let's say if the incomplete database could result in the outcome like there are no women in the refugee community. If that happens, it is a big problem. And why do I say this with so much conviction is that we are then ignoring intentionally, unintentionally, the data actually says that there are no refugee women, and this means that half of the population will not be getting the needs, let's say sanitation, for instance, women as basic as require toilets, right? So the whole idea, therefore, it becomes a lot problematic with respect to where if the data is not provided, if there is incomplete data sets, would lead to an unfair outcome. So these are certain challenges that AI brings along with it. And without taking much of the time, I would like to put 4 important points to conclude and argue the way forward. First, what can be done? So we are talking here about the solutions. The first is that probably AI can improve refugee protection by supporting fairer resource distribution, better translation, and faster verification. So it has to be working towards ensuring and supporting the cause of human rights rather than undermining the same. The second is ethical frameworks should be in place that will give some some check that will function as checks on AI to remain as much as possible inclusive, as much as possible rights based, and most importantly, rights respecting and transparent in nature. The third point would be of how there should be community participation. We hear talking, or let's say people talking about the community. That should not be the case all alone. It should be people from the community also talking about themselves. And therefore, then the idea of inclusivity would work and make a difference. If there's a very famous argument within the refugee studies, where it says that for us, with us, so which means that you cannot talk about us without the community. So that becomes very important. You have to have representation, and the AI tools should be shaped, should be designed, should be implemented in such a manner where they are also representative of all the stakeholders, the states, the NGOs, the UNHCR, and the refugee community also. The fourth possible solution, and the last, is ultimately one should be working towards building a responsible AI tool which generates trust, strengthens humanitarian protection, rather than creating new forms of vulnerability for the population. So therefore the idea is that it is important to come together, to work together, encourage policymakers both at the international and at the national level, talk with all these stakeholders along with the affected communities so that we can build safe systems whereby no one, and ensuring also that no one is left behind. So with this, I would like to stop my discussion, and thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Roshni, for that compelling and insightful address that resonates deeply with the theme of global inclusion. You have spoken at length about ethics in AI for the refugee and the displaced community. The various challenges posed by AI for the community has been appropriately highlighted, as well as some possible outcomes for these problems. Thank you once again. We now open the floor for a brief question and answer session. Participants, please note that you may post your questions in the chat box. The moderator will take few of the questions as time permits. At the same time, if you would like to ask your question, please raise your hands and then we will allow you to speak.
Hi, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Tarabang. So I'm a visually impaired challenge. Okay, so.
Okay. Tara Bagang, yeah, please, you may please tell your question. Tara, would you like to tell your question? You can speak.
Politician, like politics.
Yes, please tell. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically my question is like, do we have a reservation in the politician? Like if we want to contest election, because I have been like for like government job and all we have we have like reservation, okay, 5% Sarah has told. So like I want to know like do we have any like reservation for the political sir? Thank you.
Okay. Got it. Dr. Roshni, would you like to take up the question?
Yes, I am not sure of whether we have to contest elections. I don't think there is until you are contesting election, let's say at the local level. And here I am very specifically talking in the Indian context. If we are if you're contesting election at the local governing at the level of the local governing bodies, there is some kind of reservation which is there for both the rural and the urban local bodies. But I am not very sure of this kind of reservation existing for the state legislatures and the union legislatures to contest elections. That is a contesting election. Yes, there are certain other criterias there, but I'm not sure of this aspect of what you are talking about. So I'm not sure of that as of now. I know
All
there
right.
are caste-based reservation, there's gender-based reservation.
Yes, ma'am, I got for that. That is for the like government scheme, or if you go, if you want to join in the public service, okay, anyway. So that for that we have like reservation, okay, for the person with disabilities.
Yes, for
Okay.
jobs, government jobs there are. For government jobs there are.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your question. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question? Please raise your hand so that I can allow you to tell your question. You can also post your question in the chat box. We can read it out for you. Okay. I think Jamal has a question for Dr. Roshni. Yeah. May I read out the question? So he says, how can we inform NGO about data privacy of the refugee? Would you like to answer?
Jamal, if I have not mistaken, are you trying to ask the about the data privacy of the refugee? As in, it's the question is not very clear. Once the data is informed, is given, or if you can.
I
I can answer this question. Actually, as we work for JWL, most of them, the students who are registered for certain courses and in their community itself. So when they are exposed to other places or countries, so they are allowed to use a pseudonym. So so that is one method of preventing or preserving their identity. And then not only that, so they have other restrictions, like, even when they do up the course. So in our own institution, when we provide courses for the JWL students and other refugees all over the world, so when they mention it in the document and in the verification, we are doing it in separate way. So their identity, when it comes to public, they can use a pseudonym or any other method of their own identity. So this is how the NGOs are helping them. But to get a true data, like, the valid data, we can approach the NGOs. So NGOs becomes a centralized database to provide.
Yeah, to add on to what ma'am is saying, so what happens is not all the refugees gets associated with NGOs across. Some refugees in India that I know of is some of the refugees don't even get any association, or they do not even come close to any of the associations given the restrictions that the state has. We are not we are not signatory to the refugee convention. So as a matter of fact, then UNHCR has all the data. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees, they have all the data. Now, just like what ma'am said, yes, pseudonyms are used, but the correct names and all the data, it is to be there with the UNHCR. And some of the refugee communities have no connection with the UNHCR also. For instance, the Pakistani refugees in India or the Tibetan refugees in India, they do not directly work with the UNHCR in India. So they are totally, aloof from the UNHCR. So that is also depends upon which refugee community we are talking about.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Roshni. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question? Okay. All right. So I think we can move ahead. Banu ma'am?
Can we conclude with a small vote of thanks?
Yeah, we will do that. So I am closing the question and answer session since there's no other question from the participant side. So thank you to all the participants who shared your thoughtful questions. Thank you very much. I now invite Dr. Usha Priyadarshini, Deputy Registrar, St. Joseph's University, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Usha.
Thank you, Shantini ma'am. Good evening to one and all as we reach the end of day one session of this inspiring Global Inclusion Summit 2025, organized by St. Joseph's University, JWL Committee. It is my distinct privilege to propose the vote of thanks and express our sincere gratitude to the dignitaries who graced this event. Firstly, we extend our deepest gratitude to our patron, Professor Dr. Ronald J. Mascarenhas, Pro Vice Chancellor, St. Joseph's University, and JWL convener. Professor, your administrative vision, leadership, and unwavering commitment to the Jesuit ethos of compassion and justice provided the essential foundation for this summit. Your role as patron ensures that the spirit of inclusion and shared community is not just discussed, but actively fostered within the university and through the JWL mission. Thank you, sir, for your immense support, guidance throughout the planning and execution of this series. Our heartfelt thanks go to our esteemed chief guest, Professor Srinivasalu, NS, Professor of Law, School of Technology, Law, National University of Juridical Science, India. Professor, your presence as chief guest provided a tremendous academic impetus to our proceedings. Your insightful address, especially on critical intersection of law, technology, and inclusion, provided valuable perspectives that are essential for shaping equitable policy and accessible practices in the modern era. We are truly grateful for you taking time from your busy schedule to honor us and enrich our sessions. We also express a profound appreciation to our distinguished guest of honor, Professor Dr. TVGS Sudhakar from the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. Professor, your scholarly participation and the knowledge you shared added significant weight and depth to the discourse on inclusion and rights. Your expert contribution is highly valued by all the participants, and we thank you for bringing your vast experience to the summit. Finally, we wish to thank our dedicated resource person, Dr. Roshni Sharma, Assistant Professor of Political Science at St. Joseph University, Bangalore, for her inspirational session. I thank Dr. Shayantini Banerjee, our MC, Ms. Litty and Ms. Immaculate for introducing our guest, Mr. Neville and Hariharan for the technical support, and Ms. Banu M, the organizing secretary. And most importantly, all the participants and students who attended the webinar and engaged actively, hoping that you would continue to show your commitment in building a more inclusive future. Thank you all for being part of Day 1 Global Inclusion Summit 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usha, for expressing gratitude on behalf of the entire organizing team. As we close this inaugural day, we thank each one of you for your presence and participation. Tomorrow, day 2, we will explore the theme AI and accessibility inclusion through technology. I request all the participants to join us at 6:30 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time. Please note, this is the exact same time that the program started today as well. We will continue the same time tomorrow also. On behalf of the entire organizing committee, I wish you a peaceful and reflective evening. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Banu ma'am, is there anything else that you would
One
to
kind
add on?
information, yes. Thank you all, one and all, for your kind cooperation. Participants, it's my kind request for you people to join earlier. I think the host will start the webinar by 5:45. So today we found a lot of delay because they are joining overseas. There is a lot of network issues. So please try to join by 5:45. Our host will be ready to let you inside the meeting. Thank you, one and all.